we Americans have a notoriously short attention span. So I don't want us to forget what happened just a few months ago. I want to talk about the mandates. Let's talk about it. Hello, everyone. This is Keith. Welcome to the Ghetto Sapien channel, your home of inner city intelligence. Today, I'm sporting my customized T-shirt I designed it myself. Socialism, emptying wallets, filling graves. I was at the local farmers market where they have, the hippies are there, at least the old hippies, and some didn't really care for the T-shirt too much, but that's why I wear it, to piss off hippies. Actually, here in Georgia, a lot of people give me the thumbs up and really like it, so that's pretty cool. But I don't mind every now and then when it pokes the right people, and just see the look on their face. So anyway, the mandates. I remember them very well. I'm sure you do too. My memory of the mandates was when the contracting company I was working for was trying to force me into getting the shot, and I wasn't having it. I was already kind of leery the whole thing, but the more you push something on me, the less I'm likely to do it, especially if you don't explain it to me just for my own good. That didn't work when I was 10 years old. I needed an explanation. I'm a grown up. You gotta tell me why. Why is it in my favor to comply? But again, the more you push it, the more you demand it, the less likely I'm going to take it. I'm that asshole. I'm one of those guys who's just like, no, I don't comply very easily. I'm rational, and if you give me a good explanation and I'm good with it, like sure. And I'll do it even if it benefits me a little, but it benefits society a lot. If it doesn't put me out too much and it benefits society, fantastic. But you gotta explain that to me. You can't just say take it or you're fired, which is basically what my contracting agency was doing. And the thing that was weird about it was I work from home. I never go into the office. I haven't been inside of an office in years. My contracting agency knew that. The client they contracted me out to said, we never expect you to come into the office. I don't see why you need the shot. But my agency insisted. They kept bugging me, sending me emails. They're like, nope, not going to do it. No. And the deadline was coming up. And I was like, look, I'll be poor before I take the poke. So I'll go find some other gig. And it eventually died off. And what happened was where it started getting, I stopped getting the emails and the phone calls was because the Supreme Court finally came and said, no, this is not going to work out. You can't use OSHA that way. But let's go back in time a little bit. And this is what was in the news just September last year. So almost a year ago. It's amazing how, now we're into, the headlines are completely different now. You got the war in Russia. The war in Ukraine, but even that's moved out of the headlines. Now it's all the economy. And no one even remembers the vaccine mandates, but they're very important to remember because you cannot let this happen again. Just no way. So Joe Biden defends vaccine mandates. This is September 10th, 2021. Seems like a million years ago. Joe Biden defends vaccine mandates, says foes can have at it. That's basically Joe's way of saying F you. President Biden on Friday ramped up the war he started with Republican governors over his far-reaching new COVID-19 vaccine mandates, calling critics of the move cavalier. That's a big word for Biden nowadays. That seemed like a million years ago too when he could actually use the word cavalier. Or now it's just crap pants. Anyway, and daring them to have at it if they wanted to challenge his orders. It wasn't much. It was like a couple of months earlier, a year earlier, 2020, when we reached the expiration date on the 15 days to flatten the curve. Well, we overshot it by like 100 days. And Trump was saying, all right, look, everyone needs to get back to work. We need to just live with the virus as is, but we can't shut down the economy. he's telling the governors, you need to let people go back to work. The press, for some reason, found, they rediscovered federalism in the Constitution, that the president has very limited powers to tell the governors what to do. And rightfully so. They were correct. Trump was wrong. Trump could not force the governors to do much at all. Same thing with Biden. Biden couldn't force the governors to do anything and to challenge his orders. I mean, what orders? But of course, the press said nothing when Biden was trying to bully the states. But I think by now you know where the hypocrisy, pretty much comes from. Anyway, continuing, Biden defended the vaccine mandates for federal workers. Yeah, that's within his purview. Employees of private companies of 100 or more people, healthcare workers, and some teachers during a visit at middle school in Washington, D.C., adding that he is disappointed in those who oppose his policies. What policy? He had nothing written down. He just went on camera and said, you're fired if you don't take the vax. Companies of 100 or more employees. And again, it made no sense. And that's why I was like, yeah, I'm not having it. Because the mandates kept changing. And again, there was no rhyme or reason to them. Here it says Biden's vaccine mandates apply to about 100 million workers, or about 2/3 of the entire U.S. workforce. Most federal workers and contractors must get vaccinated if they don't qualify for religious or medical exceptions, and they were ignoring the hell out of those. And the new Labor Department rule will require companies and organizations with 100 workers or more to either impose a vaccine mandate or subject the staff to weekly testing. Look, the whole thing was to force these companies to comply. They knew it was unreasonable to expect these companies with 100 employees or a little more to be able to afford to send their employees out of the office, most likely, and take a test. For the ones that did, it'd be easier to fire them, which is what the point was. They wanted you to just fire people who didn't comply with the government edict. What Biden was trying to do was to do an end run around, well, not Biden. The people handing his notes were trying to have him do an end run around the Constitution. By not writing up an executive order, Biden figured what he could do. Again, not really Biden, but what he can do, if he goes up and says, this is what's going to happen, companies need to comply or let their employees go, the ones who are non-compliant. He knew that, like the Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, the one with, with lobbyists in D.C., were going to comply, executive order or not. So he didn't really even need to write anything down. He just used OSHA to kind of push it out there. And these companies did comply with, again, nothing officially signed, no law. It wasn't even a regulation. It was official yet. And immediately these companies just jumped to whatever the government was doing, and people were losing their jobs. It was horrible. I remember reading stories about nurses who were basically thrown out of hospitals. They were the champions of the lockdown, and they were our best and brightest when COVID hit. And then when it was time to take the vaccine, they're like, no, it's get out. So that's how psychotic this whole deal was. So look. And Biden didn't care that it was unconstitutional. He just pushed it anyway. Because they don't really care about the Supreme Court or the Constitution at all. They just want their way. There were so many things that were just inexplicable that they want us to follow. The mask mandates, which made no sense. I saw people with masks, and if you're wearing a beard, your mask is useless. Because if it isn't tight to your face, I mean, what's the sense of having a mask? They didn't confirm whether the masks were to prevent the spread of the disease or to help you from catching it. They just wear a mask, wear two masks. People wearing masks alone in the cars by themselves. It just made no sense. They convinced people that standing on an X on a line at the supermarket was going to save them. walking one way down an aisle and one way down another aisle that the supermarket was going to save them. Closing down the gyms would be helpful. Leaving the liquor stores open, and in this one with 100 workers or more, the only ones that have to comply. What about the companies which make up a large percentage of companies out there that are small and mid-sized that have like 99 employees? Is COVID taking a head count and just skipping those companies? They're too small. Maybe their break room's too small, and COVID doesn't want to be bothered with it. It made no sense. At least when it comes to a quarantine protocol and keeping the spread of disease, it made no sense to me. I started understanding what it was about. It was about how compliant is the American population. I think someone was taking a measurement of that to see how far they can push the Americans. And again, if I'm sure you've seen people again driving in cars by themselves with a mask on. There are other people watching that too. There are other people watching, like New Yorkers yelling at each other and almost getting the fights, screaming at people who weren't wearing their mask. They were. I think there's somebody out there. There's some group out there that has the numbers of exactly how many people are compliant and how far they can push them before they break. Because there are people still wearing masks, so those people are broken. And I predicted a while ago, I said there are people who are never going to take them off because they're psychologically broken by all this. And I think that was intentional. And I think that was the major point of the lockdown. It wasn't to stop the spread of the disease. It was just to see how many Americans are diseased psychologically, how many people they can make sick psychologically by breaking them down. That was the point of the lockdowns. And I think, unfortunately, we failed that test. I really do think so. And I think that's the major danger. I think it's given the government the impression that they could come out with some other fear tactic and make Americans just dance and do whatever the hell they want them to do. What was the lesson we learned from the lockdowns? I have a question. We know that we know that smallpox has a very high mortality rate. It's pretty high. The flu, much lower, right? Somewhere in between is COVID. It's not up near smallpox or black plague level of mortality. It's somewhere close to or maybe even below the flu. So something in there triggered the lockdown protocols. What is it? What'll trigger the next lockdown protocols? Because my point is, what about COVID that made us lock down the way we did? That needs to be explained. Even if you never find out where, or you're just oddly incurious about how COVID started and where it came from, explain to me. They must have the numbers of, like, the next time we have a lockdown. I need to know the exact numbers. What happened to trigger economic shutdown on this level? We need to know, because look, they're already talking about freaking monkeypox, and I'm sorry, if it's even more fatal than COVID, which I doubt, you're not going to get that same level of compliance. You're going to get some people who are compliant, because again, they're still the ones wearing a mask right now. They're ready for the next lockdown. But most of us aren't going to go for it. People lost their jobs. People lost their companies, lost their homes, their livelihoods. Some people lost their lives. Suicide rates, I'm sure, are up. You're not going to get people to comply like they did last time. And I hope the government understands that, because the country will break if they try it again. But the elections are coming up, and the polls are looking bad for the Democrats, and I'm sure monkeypox is looking kind of promising. Not going to happen. I really don't think so. So that's all I got on this one. If you have your stories of the mandates and how they affected your life in the lockdown, just please, leave them in the comment section. Other than that, like, share, comment, like I said, and subscribe.